as well. This is direct impact fundraising, how to ignite your donor base. I'll turn on my video for just a second here so you can see me. Oops, hang on a second. Sorry about that. There we go. Okay. All right. So this is direct impact fundraising, how to ignite your donor base. And I am with Taste the Local Difference. And if you don't know about us, Taste the Local Difference is all about local food. We are a marketing agency specializing in effective strategies for agriculture, food, and beverage producers. And we believe in uplifting these purpose-driven and passionate entrepreneurs to tell their stories, find loyal customers, and build successful, well-connected businesses because we really believe that a thriving food system creates thriving local economies and communities. So we're in our 22nd year now, and we are just huge raving fans of everything when it comes to local food. And we're just very excited to be able to support that work. And a little bit about me as we begin. I'm the director of impact here. I have 20 years experience running different businesses of my own of all kinds and sizes. And I'm an expert in sales and marketing for micro enterprises. So before I joined the team at TLD a couple years ago, I had actually been working for a decade as a consultant. I had my own consultancy working with entrepreneurs on their sales and marketing strategy so that they could grow in a really sustainable way. And a lot of those folks happen to be food entrepreneurs and farmers. And I am a former farmer myself for a period of time back when I lived in upstate New York. I'm in Michigan now. I live just south of Ann Arbor in Ypsilanti. But when I lived in upstate New York for a time, I was farming there and beekeeping. I'm also a huge food access advocate and a local food enthusiast. So, what we're going to be covering today is defining direct impact fundraising, why you should consider it if you work with farmers or food entrepreneurs, why direct impact fundraising can be an effective and fun way to activate your donor community, some examples of subsidized marketing success stories with our impact partners here at TLD, and an example of a direct impact fundraising partnership with TLD. So a concept that you could perhaps implement with us, and then some ways to market it. All right. So I am, curious if anyone here has heard of the multiplier effect. I imagine perhaps some of you have. But in case you have not, or it's been a while, it is the idea that spending your dollars locally goes further. It has a greater impact. And why I want to start with this is because since we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about why you should be investing in local farmers and food entrepreneurs is that this is really the proof of why it has such a great impact, of why it's something that it is important to prioritize and to invest in. So you could see right here, your dollars are recirculating through your local economy 2 to 4 times more than money spent on a non-local company. And $100 spent at local independents generates $45 of local spending compared to only $14 for big box chain stores. And on average, 52.9% of each purchase at a local independent business gets recirculated locally compared to less than 13.6 at local chain stores. And this is a really great graphic we have right here that is focused specifically on why buying local food has such a great impact as well. And again, this is just it really shows, the data really shows that when you uplift local food entrepreneurs and producers, that it does have this compounding, multiplying effect that is really, really crucial. So, what is direct impact fundraising? So, when we're talking about it, what we are referring to are raising funds that are going directly towards impacting program participants with various types of technical assistance. Now, it is going to take your staff time and overhead and payroll and things like that into account, but it's slightly different from general fundraising or raising funds, for the organization itself, like a new building, right? So it's different than a large capital campaign or, a new building campaign or unrestricted funds. All of those things are important, of course, but this is slightly different and more focused on a smaller scale project, as you will see. Now, why should we care about it? Why should you pursue it? Now, we've already talked about the multiplier effect, so we know that, kind of on a macro level, why it matters. But why this specifically? So, marketing can be very challenging for business owners, especially these types of business owners that TLD has worked with over the years, that we're really familiar with. It's really challenging because they're short on time and budget, but with professionally developed assets and training, they can achieve greater success much more quickly. So, kind of like the multiplier effect overall, when these folks have direct marketing technical assistance, it really like the leverage of that is enormous. And these types of entrepreneurs have a lot of obstacles to revenue resilience. So, first and foremost, having to pay out of pocket for these services often just isn't possible. Most farms and food businesses, especially for those of you who, have already been working very closely with them, you already know this. They are really struggling with capital investments, especially when they're new, especially when they aren't generating a lot of revenue already that they can put back into their businesses, especially when margins are very, very slim. It's really hard to have extra money to put back into logo design or to build an e-commerce website and things like that. And any funds they do have often get allocated for good reason to the production side and labor costs. Also, the learning curve it can be very steep for a lot of folks. And the volume of information online can be really overwhelming. So there's obviously a lot of free information out there, especially on places, like YouTube, about different types of marketing. But that doesn't mean that all information is good information, especially if it's not geared towards these particular individuals and the niche that they are operating in. And and also time scarcity, right? These are some of the busiest people out there. They are working from sun up to sundown. So even if they are, really wanting to learn and everything, they might be learning, but then they have to figure out how to then implement and everything. And that can just also be a challenge because they just don't have a lot of time to spare, especially in the height of the season or the height of production time. So a lot of times they need technical assistance more than DIY. So direct impact fundraising is also a lot easier to conceptualize. So shifting away from the folks that it benefits for a moment, so those entrepreneurs and those farmers, let's focus on the donors themselves. So it's a lot easier to conceptualize a smaller project or a smaller program or a smaller goal, And rather than it being an abstract goal of, hey, we are just trying to, hit a fundraising goal, a large fundraising goal of general support, that can feel vague and sometimes easy to ignore. Now, of course, every organization and nonprofit does have those large goals that they have to reach. But especially as we are bombarded with a lot of information daily in multiple places, it can be easy for us to tune out. But when there is something specific, like, hey, you can fund a marketing plan or a website or a branded template, something that is tangible, it feels achievable. And this can also apply to a program where recipients are going to receive marketing assets or training. It's going to paint a picture of impact that those donors can envision. And that feels really exciting. And I'm going to give you an example of a program type a bit later on in the presentation as well. It also allows them to feel bought in. It allows them to feel like they get to share in the success of the program participants. So they feel like they get to be part of the outcome. And it creates deeper connection, which can lead to long-lasting support. So it's also a great way to galvanize perhaps people in your community, maybe some people who've been, lurkers on social media who haven't given yet. But then they feel really excited and it feels like, oh, this is something I want to support. And once somebody makes that initial donation and then they are more bought into the organization, then they can be more likely to make subsequent donations, right? Or if they can then see, the outcomes of that program and the support that people received, that can create a feeling of like, hey, I want to keep supporting this work, right? So it creates, again, this compounding, multiplying effect for your organization. It's also really exciting and attainable. So, kind of like a wedding registry, right? Donors know that their gift made a real impact. So, sort of like that, like that Le Creuset, that, piece of uh, cooking equipment, that blender, whatever it is, when you are shopping on somebody's wedding registry, we often will pick something that we think, yes, of course, we know that they want it because they put it on their own registry. But also a lot of times, we're picking something in our budget as well, of course, but we're also picking something that feels fun to give. And we hope that they think of us when they do use it. So it can be this way too with a direct impact fundraiser, as you'll see in some of the examples later. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the subsidized services and education that TLD has offered in um, partnership with our various impact partners, and to give you some ideas of the way that this might look. So, one of the things that we do is subsidized marketing technical assistance. And this is great because this is where that direct done for you work comes into play. And I'm going to give you some real examples of folks that we have worked with and some of the outcomes and feedback that they've given us on this. But a lot of times, what this looks like when we work with our impact partners, which is I have the pleasure of getting to set those partnerships up and work with our partners. And it's incredibly rewarding to get to do this because I work with our partners and then we figure out, if they have a cohort or something going on, which you'll see an example of in just a minute. If they have folks going through a program, then they can give out stipends to those folks where each person going through gets a certain amount of funding, and then they can come to us and utilize those funds to provide services on completed projects. So, websites, branding, marketing plans, custom marketing plans, etc. And then there's also the educational side. So these can be things like on-site or virtual workshops or trainings on particular marketing topics that are very relevant to what the program participants have been, wanting to learn, needing to learn, and also our local food marketing academy course. Just a little bit about some of what we offer. This is not all of what we offer, but we really have a robust offering of options. And because of the niche that we are in, we try to make them as affordable as possible, both for when people come to us directly to hire us and also to make it affordable for our partners too. So here are some sample project quotes of that marketing technical assistance. And then also our local food marketing academy course. This is really exciting. This is a self-paced digital course that we are actually about to relaunch. We are doing a whole big upgrade of it. We refilmed all of it just a couple months ago. And so it's getting a full makeover. And this is a fantastic, easy to get through course, but is very thorough that covers all of the fundamentals of local food marketing. And it also includes workbooks, templates, a lot of like ready to use assets for business owners. And what's nice about this is that people can come and just get this and go through it on their own as entrepreneurs, but organizations can also license bulk seats. And there's an option to get it with an hour of consulting as well. And even with that option, whether it is like purchased directly or purchased in bulk, ends up being around $500. So very, very affordable. And the course on its own is depending on the level that you get it at, is around just under $400. So now I want to share with you some of our partnership success stories so you can get an idea, like a real world idea of some of these impact partnerships. And hopefully, this can spark some inspiration of things that you may be able to do in your programming and with the folks that you are already supporting in your programming. First up, we have had the pleasure of doing a lot of work over the years with Michigan State University's Center for Regional Food Systems. But I want to highlight Sticky Spoons Jam, which is a great jam business that does a lot of local sourcing that is based in Southwest Michigan. We did some e-commerce and inventory syncing for Sticky Spoons Jam. And this project was funded by a program that they used to have called Food Spice, which stands for Food Systems Partners Investing in Communities and Entrepreneurs. And it was a group of urban and rural food systems stakeholders that were working together to strengthen the viability, resilience, and equity of Michigan regional food economies that supported approximately 120 farms and food businesses. And survey respondents reported capital formation of nearly, like it was just under $3 million, with 2.6 million in sales growth, 109 new jobs created, and 50 jobs retained. So a really successful, really amazing program. And we were fortunate enough that they sent us many food entrepreneurs that all came with stipends for that direct marketing technical assistance. And Sticky Spoons has a really cool story of impact because after we built the e-commerce site and we synced it all up with all the inventory on the back end, what this was able to do. So within the year, we talked to IA after, uh, like just over a year after the services were complete. And one thing that I really wanted to do was a lot of pitching to local places that could become new wholesale customers. And I was very proactive and really great about doing the pitching. And what was happening is that as I was pitching, those folks were going to the website and seeing how great it looked, seeing what was available in real time. And rather than having to do a whole bunch of back and forth to figure out, were they gonna become a wholesale customer or not, they were just an immediate, yes, I'm in, I want to do this. Here's the quantities I want. Send me the invoice. Let's go. Which led to a 17% increase in revenue from the launch of the website in that first year and went from 7 wholesale accounts to 23. And not only that, but then they were able to do a lot of very easy reordering because all of the inventory was in real time. So it decreased IA's a lot of the admin time of having to email back and forth, asking, hey, what do you have in stock? And all of that. And so what that meant was that I was actually able to spend more time on the production side, hiring more people from the local community, pay them fair wages, and do more local sourcing. So all in all, again, that like as you can see, this is the multiplier effect at work, and that all came from like a $2,500 stipend. This is Aqua and Acre Market in Rapid City, South Dakota. They had some funding through an economic development agency called Elevate Rapid City. And they're a community marketplace with over 40 local vendors that is growing. So they had 10K for marketing. And then as we were working with them, they launched their market. They had $40,000 in sales in month one, which greatly exceeded expectations and really showed demand for those fresh local products. All of the initial customer feedback was really positive, and all of their customers and the people who were interacting with them, they really loved that they're reinvesting in the community through education, outreach, and sustainability initiatives. So, in addition to the products, they also do a lot of really cool classes there that also focus on like local make and takes and different things that also support the local economy. And they're actually still doing, we did some ongoing projects with them that we just finished up. And Kelsey, who founded the shop, as you can see here, she said, other communities should really consider similar investments because it creates that ripple effect that strengthens the local economy, builds food resilience, and uplifts small producers. So again, the multiplier effect. That $10,000 immediately turned into, 40,000 in revenue in the first month and growing. As I mentioned earlier, with a cohort example, I love to use Cade as a cohort example. So we worked with Cade last year. This is a farming organization in upstate New York, and they had just a small cohort. I think it was about 8 total farms in the program. They sent us 5 of those farms with approximately $3,000 each. We met with those farms, assessed their needs, and then recommended various services such as marketing plans, websites, copywriting, design, and then we implemented those services for them. And they were very, very, very happy. Both Cade was happy with the services, and all of the individual farmers were delighted. And Ghostlight at the top has gone on to continue working with us on a lot of their packaging design as well, especially as they apply for other funding with New York State and things like that. So again, this was a huge, had a huge ripple effect for these producers, and it really enhanced their business boot camp programming that they were already doing. And then we were fortunate enough in the fall. So, unfortunately, with the closing of the regional food business centers, there was some funding that was left over that had to be spent by that September 15th deadline. But we were fortunate enough that through Pacific Northwest CSA, who we know through being involved in the CSA Innovation Network, they connected us to the Center for Small Farms at Oregon State University, which had $20,000 in remaining funds that had to be used in a relatively quick amount of time. And they went through and had farms that were CSA farms apply, and they selected 10 farms, each with a stipend of $2,000. Again, we met with each farm. We figured out different projects to do with them. And so we did some new website builds, photography, and digital optimization plans. And again, even like I just want to emphasize again, even with those small stipends, it really, really makes a huge difference. As this one funding recipient says, they're going to be using that data regularly to update the site, and especially when promoting CSA signups. So to be able to have those assets created for them and then explain to them, huge. We're able to do earlier this year, Macomb County did a Grown in Macomb event. So they purchased multiple local food marketing academy seats. So how that works is an organization, they purchase multiple seats, we give them a special code, and then they can enroll folks in with that code. Then it enrolls those members in for free since the org has already paid for the seats. And they chose the option with the one-on-one consultations. And I went there and I did a training as well. So I did a marketing training on some email marketing and some social media marketing. And then they got their course access and the consultations afterwards. And then Growing Hope, who happens to be local to me. I love them. They're a great organization. They're also my local farmers market. We've done a lot of work with them over the years. A really great project has been helping them to do marketing support for when they had to relocate the market. Also, some support with their food fest, which is now in its second year. And then I'm also just about to do another workshop as part of their incubator program that works with local food makers, so teaching on branding and messaging. And then we are actually in talks for a similar direct impact fundraiser, as you'll see an example of in just a moment, for those incubator participants. So they're just fantastic. And you can see the full case study for them on our website too. And then lastly, one of the largest subsidized programs that we have run over the years is Fresh Food Connections in conjunction with Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, which worked with 25 farms over 5 years. And what that allowed those farms to do was it worked with farms in very specific communities around the state of Michigan, in SNAP eligible communities. And then we had farms that applied in those communities. And then we worked with them. They got a stipend that helped with production. And then they got marketing technical assistance hours to spend with us. And we did all kinds of things like building them e-commerce sites that had the ability to process SNAP. We did photography and videography, branding, all sorts of really amazing things that just helped them so much. And also marketing resources to let their local community know, hey, you have these farms in the area that take SNAP or do sliding scale CSA shares. So really, really wonderful program there. And then lastly, oops, sorry. Uh, So what this could look like with us is so that example I shared earlier is if there's a cohort of 10 entrepreneurs, this could be scaled up or down based on your needs and goals. But if there was $20,000 to support 10 entrepreneurs, That could be some marketing technical assistance of $1,500 to each business, and then a printing stipend of $250 per business, and then educational programming provided by your organization of $750, which would also cover your staff time, operational costs, materials, etc. This is highly adaptable, so it can change depending on the program type and other costs that need to be considered. I really recommend that you brainstorm a program idea with us first based on our extensive experience doing these different programs. And then you can tailor the campaign around it, and then the messaging can be modified depending on what would resonate best for your audience and what makes sense for the program. And just some quick examples, and then we're almost done here. So since it's just, a 20K program, if you were doing very targeted promotion to some very specific donors, you could do targeted outreach saying something like every $2,000 helps us enroll a farmer in our upcoming business cohort. Our goal is 10. Can we count on you to sponsor one or more farmers? Or if you were doing a full spectrum multi-channel campaign, this is where you could segment even further, kind of like that wedding registry. You could take different services and chunk them down into specific dollar amounts and then pair equivalent services. So, for instance, the LFMA with consulting, as I mentioned earlier, is about 500. So you could say something like every 500 raised gives a local food entrepreneur access to industry specific marketing course and an hour of tailored strategy to increase sales. Give today, something like that. So as you can see, lots of ways, different ways to do this, but it's very clear. It's very like easy to understand. And so to recap, affect change and get your donor base invested with direct impact fundraising. So really fun and exciting idea. And technical assistance for those local food businesses, it's really crucial to that long-term success for all those reasons I mentioned in the beginning. And offering an opportunity to directly support these entrepreneurs can be such a great fundraising option. And this type of fundraiser can be really engaging for your community because it's so easy to conceptualize, it's exciting, it's attainable, and it allows them to share in the program's success. And in this moment in particular, it is just such a perfect moment to rally your donor base around local food and the people who produce it. So I have time to stick around for some questions.